Someone rightly said, regardless of where we live or what language we speak, a smile has the incredible power to heal. Everyone smiles in the same language, and that is what brings us all together. Namaste, delegates. On behalf of the G20 Interfaith Forum, in collaboration with MIT World Peace University and the Interfaith Alliance for Safer Communities, I, Piyush Motwani, your host, welcomes you to this magnificent Nelson Mandela Hall. Can we have a round of applause, please? The G20 Interfaith Forum, launched in 2014 during Australia's G20 presidency, brings together diverse religious communities to influence global agendas. By uniting visionary leaders, it seeks innovative solutions, fosters dialogue, and inspires positive change. This summit, held in Pune, India, at the World Peace Dome, is a crucial opportunity to promote global peace and holistic development, considering religious perspectives for a more inclusive, peaceful, and sustainable world. This forum will offer a platform for leaders, representatives of various organizations, government officials, and the civil society to come together to share experiences and provide added emphasis to suggestions identified throughout the year in preparation for the G20 summit that is being held in New Delhi shortly after the G20 Interfaith Forum concludes. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Peace Bell. This remarkable symbol symbolizes our shared commitment to global harmony, unity, and the pursuit of peace. May we have the honor of welcoming our esteemed dignitaries who will join us in the symbolic act of ringing this bell. Ladies and gentlemen, our dignitaries of the day are Honorable Bani Tugal, Principal Representative of the Baha'i International Community to the UN. Can we give her a round of applause, please? Along with her, Ms. Yaya Kisbia, MA, Associate Professor of Psychology, Universitas Muhammadiyah Sukarata, Indonesia. We also have with us Ms. Hesha Pereira, Arigato International's End Child Poverty Knowledge Center, Sri Lanka. Let's keep those hands going, audience. Mr. Lenin Raghuvanshi, Founding President, People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights, the PVCHR, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. Let's give him a big hand. Ms. Shruti Nagvanshi, Founding Member, People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights, the PVCHR, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. We also have Colonel Binoy Koshi, Technical Director, UIDAI, Government of India, New Delhi. We also have with us Justice Roshan Dalvi, former Justice, High Court, Mumbai. Let's give her a big hand. I request our dignitaries to please do the honors of ringing the World Peace Bell. As they ring the bell, let its sound remind us of the unity and peace that connects us all. Can we give them a big hand, please? Thank you so much, delegates. I request you all to kindly take your seats.
Thank you very much. With all the ceremonies in place and taken care of, we can begin with the important task we have before us, a discussion. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course. Don't. Please.
Ma'am, we are indeed looking forward to what lies ahead of us. But now, may I request our session coordinator, Dr. Santosh Kumar, Dean Liberal Arts, to kindly come forward and extend his words of welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stand before you and welcoming you this beautiful afternoon to address a critical facet of global agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, with the backdrop of G20 and the pivotal role in safeguarding our children and vulnerable population. The SDG adopted by all United Nations members states serve as a universal call to action for more sustainable and equitable world by 2030. Among these goals, protecting children and vulnerable individuals stand as a cornerstone. It's imperative to recognize that children, as the most vulnerable members of the society, are disproportionately affected by poverty, conflict, and environmental degradation. I'm here not to deliver an alternative presentation, but very keen to listen to all the panelists here. But it's my actually an honor to welcome all the delegates here and the listeners there, the participants, and I would be, at the end of the whole thing, will be expecting that we can actually come out with a good document which will serve as a kind of guiding light in this particular domain of children and the vulnerables. With these words, let me extend my heartiest welcome to all of you again on my personal behalf and on behalf of the MIT World Peace University and the founders and the executive president, everybody. Thank you and best wishes for this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that is often marked by divisions, one thing that unites us is our collective duty to protect and nurture the future of our communities, the children. Let us approach this session with open hearts and minds, with a commitment to work together across religious and cultural boundaries to create a world where every child and vulnerable individual is valued, protected, and given the chance to reach their full potential. Moving on to the introduction of our esteemed speakers, may I request our session coordinators, Professor Dr. Santosh Kumar and Professor Dr. Preeti Joshi, Dean and Associate Dean of School of Liberal Arts, MIT WPU, to kindly come forward and do the honors for felicitation. Our first speaker, Ms. Bani Dugal. She is an accomplished leader with an impressive track record of involvement in various important organizations. She has served as the president of the NGO Committee on Freedom of Religion or Belief and played key roles in initiatives like the NGO Working Group on UN Access and the GARE Campaign for Gender Equality Reform. She holds a master's degree in environmental law from Pace University School of Law in New York and a law degree from the University of Delhi, India. Ms. Dugal has contributed extensively through articles, statements, and papers. Before moving to the US in 1988, she practiced law before the Supreme Court of India. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Dugal, a distinguished guest with a wealth of experience and expertise. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We also have with us Ms. Yaya Kisbiya, MA. She is an associate professor of psychology at Universitas Muhammadiyah Sukarata. She is also the founder of the Center for the Studies of Culture and Social Change there. She is involved in various organizations, including the International Network for Peace Psychology, Muhammadiyah Central Board, and Marif Institute for Culture and Humanity. She has received Fulbright scholarships and studied conflict resolution and peace studies in Sweden and Austria. She is a consultant for the UN organizations, foreign governments, and various civil society and faith-based groups. Her main interests are in the psychology of peace building, promoting peace through religion, and holistic well-being for the environment. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we give her a big hand, please? Next up, we have Ms. Hesha Pereira, a seasoned project manager with an impressive 9 years of experience. She has a strong background in education, tackling child poverty, and contributing to community and social service initiatives. Her skill spans across various areas, including working with international non-profit organizations, fundraising community development, outreach, and efficiently implementing programs. Please join me in welcoming this dedicated professional with a passion for making a positive impact on society. Let's give her a big hand, please. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We also have with us Mr. Lenin Raghuvanshi. He is a well-known social activist from India. He is famous for co-founding the People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights, the PVCHR, in Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. He fights against issues like bonded labor, child labor, and violence against children and women. He is dedicated to helping survivors of human rights, and that's what makes him special. Under his leadership, the PVCHR uses innovative methods to support these survivors, like counseling and legal assistance. He's won many awards, including the most prestigious, the Gwangju Human Rights Award. His tireless work is making a big difference in the world, shining a light on the struggles of marginalized communities and fighting for their rights and dignity. Stay tuned for an inspiring conversation. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Let's give him a big hand. We also have with us Mrs. Shruti Nagvanshi. She is a dedicated activist for women's and children's rights in India, especially for marginalized communities like the Dalit caste and rural women. She is a key figure serving as one of the founders of the People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights and also founding the Savitribai Phule Mahila Panchayat, a women's forum. Her impactful work goes beyond her roles, including her involvement in projects empowering minority groups. She has co-founded the PVCHR alongside Dr. Lenin Raghuvanshi and other remarkable individuals. Her dedication to ensuring that the voices of the marginalized are heard and their rights protected makes her special. Let's give her a round of applause, please. We have with us Colonel Binod Koshi. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Colonel Binod Koshi, the Technical Director of the Unique Identification Authority of India. He is a vital force behind Aadhaar, a colossal biometric project enrolling over 1 billion residents. His expertise ensures Aadhaar's security and efficiency. Beyond technology, Colonel Koshi champions data privacy and safeguards sensitive information. His leadership has influenced government initiatives like direct benefit transfers, enhancing service delivery. Stay tuned for our conversation with this remarkable scholar and leader. Let's give him a big round of applause, please. We also have with us Justice Roshan Dalvi. She is a highly accomplished legal professional. She completed her BCom with a specialization in business management in 1973 and earned her LLM in 1978 from the University of Bombay. She started her career as a counsel in the Bombay High Court, working on civil and corporate matters. Her legacy as a jurist and her commitment to upholding the principles of justice continue to inspire both the legal today. Let's give her a big hand, please. May I now welcome Honorable Bani Dugal, Principal Representative of the Baha'i International Community to the UN, to kindly take forward the panel discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Piyush. I'm told you're a fourth-year engineering student, but if that doesn't work out, you have a career as a news anchor. Amazing presentations. Thank you so much. So now, without further ado, we can begin our discussion on a really important topic of child protection and the vulnerable. I've been introduced. I worked as a lawyer at the Supreme Court of India early on, and then moved to New York, where I've been at the UN, working with organizations such as UNICEF, one of them. And then more recently, I've the honor of being on the board of the Interfaith Alliance for Safer Communities, which is working very hard to bring to the attention of the world some of the grave challenges that children are facing, particularly with online exploitation, sadly, mostly online sexual exploitation. And as our technology and our science develops, we have great advantages, but then there are also a number of challenges that come from those advantages, and this is one of those. It's another way for perverts, if I may use the term, to come out of the closet and actually go online and exploit the most vulnerable and innocent children. That's only one form of exploitation. As a lawyer at UNICEF, I have seen so many other forms of exploitation of children. We heard about a number of them this morning in the plenary discussion about street children, hungry children, victims of violence, and the list goes on and on. I think we all owe it to ourselves to do something about this grave problem. And then there are other vulnerable members of the community as well, and we have great expertise on this panel, and I am going to ask them for each of them to identify the areas in which they work. And then we'll have a discussion after. But I do want to recognize two individuals in the audience. Major Hamad Khatir and Mr. Faraz Hashmi. They are with the Secretariat of the International Alliance for Safer Communities, one of the organizers of this G20 Interfaith Summit. So thank you, and also for all the work you do. Justice Dalvi has been, I'm going to turn it over to you first while I clear my throat, please.
Good afternoon, friends. I come at the top of the ladder. A lot of work is done by our foot soldiers in various fields for our children. But when some things really go grossly wrong, they have to come to court. And they cannot come themselves. They are brought to court. Now, when they come to court, we have come to realize that the impact upon the children of whichever vulnerability that they come from is tremendous and lasts a lifetime. And therefore, the first thing for our protection, for the protection of these children, is to prevent these kind of offenses. Okay? Now, two principles come to mind. One is greater numbers, lesser attention. When we are working for children, we have to remember that wherever there are greater numbers, like in the family, in the country, in the courts, in the communities, wherever, there is lesser attention for each child. If you have one child, you have 24 hours. But if you have 8 children, how many hours do you have? It's like that, you know. So these are the children that are first and foremost vulnerable. Then comes the other thing, about the other principle is the principle of 3 R's. And that is recognize, resist, and report. First, we must recognize that these problems exist. We love to live in denial. That has caused this problem. Because the perverts, as she said, which is the correct word, know that nobody is going to touch him, that they don't feel only, that nobody will say anything. Because children cannot then talk. We must make the children talk so that they come and confide. It may be in a mother, it may be in a neighbor, it may be in a counselor in the school, whatever it is. And we have to listen to them and find out what is the truth and not say, oh, how can you say such a thing? He is your uncle. It's not like that. Fathers, grandfathers, uncles, cooks, drivers, neighbors, all of them come in this category of perverts for children. And they are vulnerable. They become vulnerable witnesses in court also. So these two things. And now for their protection, what do we do? I brought one small booklet that we are giving out in schools. And I wish it goes to all the schools in the world. I don't care about India. We have to work without barriers. There are doctors without barriers. Why can't we have interfaith without barriers? So this is the secret touch. This is what children must understand. This is another book, it's in English as well as in Marathi. It is sort of, what do they call it? Illustrated, and it is in 3 chapters. The children grow in the chapters. In the beginning, the children don't know what is sexual abuse, what is cyber abuse, what is trafficking. They say, is it traffic signal light? And then they are taught by the teacher. Then they come to learn and understand. And in the 3rd chapter, they have grown and they save a child from being trafficked. So you see, this is protection and prevention which go together. And if that fails, it comes to court. And then there is prosecution and punishment. But I wish we do protection and prevention only first. Thank you, friends.
Thank you so much, Justice Dalvi. This is a very important point. We have to break this culture of silence on these issues. And sadly, the point that I was making in my introduction, some of the touches aren't even in person. You have online exploitation. So there could be somebody in one, I'm not naming countries, but in one part of the world, online, actually dictating what needs to be done to a child in another part of the world, and they're getting their thrills, pervert thrills online. And people feel, and even the parents of the children feel, but nobody touched them. But the psychological impact it has of being treated like that lives for a lifetime. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work you're doing, and that book really, and maybe we can get copies of it and distribute it in the future. So dear Hesha Pereira with Arigato International, please share with us the work that you've been doing.
Thank you so much, Bani, and a good day to all of you. And it's such a pleasure and honor to be among these, great panelists. And I'm working recently with Arigato International. And Arigato International is a Japanese-based organization, and we are working around 80 countries in the world, including India, with Shanti Ashram in Coimbatore. So basically, Arigato International works with religious people, especially from the diverse religious groups and faith-based, faith-inspired organizations with different cultural backgrounds to promote children's rights and well-being at all levels, from grassroots to global. So basically, we are working for children, creating some safe spaces for children, and always giving them the participation in all aspects. We are supporting for them their education, for their well-being, and also creating them safe spaces and creating such, good places among their communities, while empowering religious leaders and all their parents and their communities. So basically, when we are finding some issues related to child protection, children of all ages have the fundamental right to live, learn, and grow without fear of violence, abuse, neglect, exploitation, and discrimination. So when it comes to our culture, the context, especially Sri Lanka and the Asian context, we have identified that social and cultural norms that tolerate emotional, physical, and sexual violence against children exist throughout our countries. Furthermore, parents, teachers, and children are often unaware how to access and utilize child protection services and mechanisms, even if a violation is experienced. So the lack of coordination from national to grassroots level made it difficult to weave important child protection principles to the work of other connected sectors such as health, education, social protection, and justice. From 2022, Sri Lanka is experiencing a huge crisis. When it comes to the children are always affecting in a drastic way. They had no chance for school because parents, they can't afford for the education, for their nutrition, and for their education supplement. So these days, as a country, as a nation, we are facing a real issue, and the results will be coming not 1 or 2 years. So, and apart from everything, all this happens affecting for children when they are growing up. So I feel as a nation, as a country, as a continent, we have to address these issues, especially child poverty, and make them, we have to create safe spaces for children and keep their protection and also protecting them from all vulnerabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yesha. This is the social cultural norms that we need to challenge, and your experience from the case of Sri Lanka, which actually could even be in the United States of America. I mean, there are hungry children right in New York City and some of the financial capitals of the world. So thank you for that. I'm now going to turn to Professor Dr. Yaya Kisbia from the University of Muhammadiyah, Surakarta, to share her experience.
Thank you, Bani, for the introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Namaste and good day to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I was introduced on my roles of academic and activist, but I would like to add that in my spare times, I established a kindergarten in my backyard, knowing that it's really important to help educating the children, especially from those poor families. Let me begin by quoting an African proverb. It takes a village to raise a child. It means that the responsibility to nurture, protect, and educate children is not solely on the shoulder of biological parents. It's on all of us, from the local, provincial, state level to the global level. In our previous sessions, we are lucky to listen to many notable speakers regarding the crisis, the moment of crisis that impacted our children in global scale and also in local scales. And unfortunately, many of us coming from a cultural practice that doesn't put importance on children's well-being. The modernized culture and societal values shaped more by neoliberalism of economy that is not child-centered. Many manifestations already mentioned in the previous sessions on the desperate condition of children, we all shared of them. Allow me to refresh, because I'm coming from the Islamic Muslim background. Allow me to refresh, or for those who are not familiar, I would like to a little bit introduce about Islamic values that I believe is shared by all of other religious traditions, beliefs, and faiths. For example, in the Quran, Surah Al-Furqan, ayah 74, it says, "There are those who pray, O Lord, bless us with pious spouses and children who will be the joy of our hearts and make us models for the righteous." Another ayah says, "Do not kill your children." And in this, it's directed specifically to daughters. Yeah, so the gender equity is also upheld by the Quran. "Do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Surely killing them is a heinous sin." And again, this is not only directed to biological parents, it's to all of us and to all belief systems, not only religious or spiritual communities, but also to the secular ones, I believe. So what those scriptures mention from all faiths, not only Islam, it says that children are given to their biological parent as a gift from God. And parents, but not only biological, but also social parents, should be able to care for children and raise them with love and affection as a gift from God. But we all know that children are helpless in the face of the repercussion of our behavior, the consequences of our behavior, whether it's personal behavior, it's social, political, etc. And as a result, we should always assist our children in making decisions that are appropriate for their physical and mental growth. I don't have much time here because Bani said only 3 minutes. Yeah, I would like to actually just skip some of my presentation to what should we do in the face of moment of crisis for our children. Yes. Okay, but I would like to mention 3 things. First is intrafaith. I mentioned the normative values of Islam. You all have normative values of your respective belief system and religious and faiths, but it's far away from being implemented by the actual communities. So we have to work intrafaith within our own respective faith communities. Not all Muslims share those values that I just mentioned. Secondly, we work on interfaith collaboration because children issues are not only designated to be solved by particular faith communities. And the third one is we need the extra faith, meaning that the governance from local to provincial to state and to the global level should work on these issues. So with that, Bani, I would like to welcome the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know, my next question to all the panelists are going to be about what solutions you can offer. But thank you, because you've already identified one about child-centered policies. And the purpose of these meetings on the sidelines of the G20 is to make recommendations that can be presented to the G20 countries so they can take them on for their deliberation. So if we are too late for India, we can take them to Brazil next year. So everything that you're offering is of great value, and we hope to bring it to the attention of the governments if they aren't already aware of them. So now I'm going to move to Lenin, next to you, Mr. Lenin Raghuvanshi.
I'm going to give some practices from the practice. I initiated my life to rescue thousands of the bonded labor and slave laborers in the leadership of the Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi. And then that time, we also organized a meeting of the faith leaders. Swami Mukteswaranand came, who nowadays he is a Shankaracharya. And we asked him, if you look in the ashram system, in the brahmacharya, there is no provisions of the child labor and the slavery in our part. And also the Rasul in the Islam, in the Makkah and Medina, he loves the children so much. So in that way we organize, but I'm going to emphasize one very important thing. You look in my city, in Banaras, there's 200,000, 2 lakhs Muslims. I went there because there is a communal rights. 2 young people are killed, 9 are injured. We worked there, and we observed after that, we did not say, but it happened on the holies, and we mobilized the Hindu communities very differently, and they came together and saved, and the spirit of our Sanatan Dharma. And in that way, what happened when we went there, we observed there were only madrasa, new primary school. When we went to the madrasa, you know, there is a dini talim, means the education for the religion, and also the dunyavi talim, education for the life. So we did not interfere there, but because we have so much connections, because we saved their life and protect them, we fought the fascist forces on the name of our religions, and we challenged them, and we saved them. And for that reason, very strong emotional binding, and they open their madrasas. And we work there. And we use the technology, computer. But this computer is the integrated technology. Why we brought? Because we look the gaps between students and the alim, the religious teachers. And when the computer came, both are on the same level of the knowledge. So they mix with each other. And you look, they created the project in the same way. And where I learned about the Rasul, Muhammad Sahab, not only he gave the Pake Quran, also the Medina Constitution, the whole concept of the diversity. So we help they understand through Google all those things related to their religion also and their own identity. And then what happened, I will tell you. They created best science projects. And then Tata Consultancy organized, after 3 years, they organized a scientific mapping of the government primary school and the madrasas. Madrasas are here, government primary school are here. And our relationship is entirely different. We organize also the meetings and everything. We eliminate the corporal punishments without preaching them, bringing the integrated technology into the educations on the same space. So in this way, that is also use the technology, because technology is not one and not in the abstract way. It is the contest. So always the evil powers and good power of the goodness, both are used. So it is a fight, always the fight. And for that we are praying every day 4 times, 5 times, because it is a fight inside also. So that is our work. And here we are telling one thing, indigenous wisdom. I'm not talking about religion. Indigenous wisdom of the East and the scientific tempers of the West are the way to save the humanity in the world. So indigenous wisdom is so important to understand, because the farmers are aware about that. A barsat hone wali, rain is coming. When they look the ants, there is so much indigenous knowledge. So we need to come together and to create different words. Children are so important, and children are always helpless. You know that. But if you are going to use this Medina Constitution and other things, first time the madrasa open to bring the other students from the different communities and the government to school, and they are visited another areas. So in this way, we eliminate the whole anger, anxiety, frustrations, emotional setbacks of this communal violence and killing of those people. And another way, we create the real spirit of their faith, Medina Constitution, and also we learn, and we ask to the many Maulanas, why you are not talking about the Medina Constitution, man? If you are not supporting. Also, I talked with someone in the Taliban, in the Afghanistan. If you love the Islam and the Rasul, why you are not promoting the Medina Constitution? In the same way, I am asking the questions inside my religions. So that is also very, very important, because that creates a different, eliminate the mind of hatreds and discriminations, and that creates real empathy, compassion, and the relationship. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raghuvanshi. I think this is a wonderful example of using technology in a positive way and working across religions to build that harmony that's so necessary, and a wonderful example for the children. It's protecting the children, but also showing them that we can all live together in harmony and benefit from each other's wisdom and join hands in resolving issues in our communities. That was a beautiful example. Thank you so much. So now we turn to Colonel Koshi, who is not a stranger to technology. He is the technical director of the agency that deals with Aadhaar cards, which is like the identity card that every Indian has, a very unique card.
With due apologies, when I sat here, I thought I was the odd man out. But let me share a small anecdote with my son. When I told him that I'm going to speak on vulnerability of kids, the first question that he asked me was, he's 12 years old. He says, you talk about vulnerability, how about the rights of internet? You know, how much data will you give me when you come back? You know, that is the question. So that is what the generation is all about. They feel that if internet is denied to a kid, the exclusion that happens back in school is something that is most vulnerable and what is probably not understood by many of us, probably the kids on the back benches would understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm a colonel from the Indian Army, an odd man out here, but yet I'm an MPhil in psychology with child psychology as a specialization. Of course, then about 30 years of service, then I went into the cyber domain, so I looked after the cyber security of government of the army, and then of course at Aadhaar. I also pursued law, so I have a multi-dimensional perspective to everything. Okay, I'll just say a few words about Aadhaar and how it has enabled the inclusiveness of children, primarily for the fact that what Aadhaar offers by it. Aadhaar is primarily a 12-digit number associated to an individual by virtue of mapping the fingerprints, 10 fingerprints of your hands and the 2 irises of the eye. How it has been useful? In the last 2 years, the very fact that Aadhaar has got the capability to deduplicate. So if one enrolls a second time, you will be caught. About over 100 odd kids, missing children, when they were found in some home, or the parent who has got them, or somebody found them on the road, and when they went in for the enrollment, could actually provide that amount of information to trace back to the original parent. Now, that is the beauty of India's Aadhaar that we have. And I don't think anywhere in the world, 1.4 billion people mapped with the biometrics is one of the best aspects that India has. And I proudly stand beside you to tell you that I belong to that organization. The second aspect which I feel that we as India has been maybe lead in the society in terms of regards to the justice here. Yet I would say that there is no act of that nature of what we have. And the formation of CARA that went in for the legal adoption that happens in India is one of the best in the world. And we should be really proud of what we offer in terms of culling or plugging the vulnerabilities in terms of these 2 things. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colonel Koshi. That's an amazing example of what at the UN they would call a best practice. And undocumented children is a big issue that UNICEF is trying to grapple with, because again, it's not only an Indian problem, it's a problem that exists around the globe. And this is amazing. And to be able to document 1,400,000,000, it's really creditable. Thank you. So now I turn to Ms. Shruti Nagvanshi. She is also with the People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights. Shruti ji will speak in Hindi, and Pallavi is going to translate for her. So she can speak a few sentences and you translate, and we'll go back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you. नमस्कार. टेक्नोलॉजी को की बारे में और प्रोटेक्शन के बारे में जो बात हो रही है, उसी टेक्नोलॉजी को हम लोगों ने बच्चों के प्रोटेक्शन के लिए इंस्ट्रूमेंट बनाने का काम किया है. हम लोग लगातार अपने, चूँकि मैं यूपी से हूँ, तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को लगातार जो चाइल्ड प्रोटेक्शन डिपार्टमेंट है उनको इन्फ्लुएंस कर रहे हैं और ग्राउंड रियलिटीज़ को जो बच्चों के साथ प्रोटेक्शन इशू आ रहे हैं उनको बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. और उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस में हमने बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के साथ मिल करके, जो गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा तरह तरह के हेल्पलाइन नंबर हैं जो उनको किसी भी खतरे से बचा सकते हैं, ऐसे नंबर्स को डेमो करके उनके साथ शेयर किया है ताकि जब भी वो खतरे में हों उनका हेल्प ले सकें.
So their organization has been integral in educating the masses, especially the government helplines that has been already given by the government. So they have gone on a mass scale teaching people about the helpline numbers, and also they have given demonstration. That is what their organization has been involved in doing.
साथ में जो कोविड काल में हम सब पैक हो गए थे, तो सबसे ज़्यादा असर जो बच्चों के ऊपर दिखाई दे रहा था, क्योंकि माता पिता बहुत सारी चिंता को लेकर के अपने तरीके से परेशान थे, पर बच्चे अपने तरीके से जो उनके ऊपर रिस्ट्रिक्शन थी उसके वजह से जो परेशानी आ रही थी और एक डिप्रेशन जो उनके अंदर आ रहा था, तो ऐसे मोबाइल का और सोशल मीडिया का प्रयोग करके हम लोगों ने उनको उनसे बाहर लाने की कोशिश की.
So during Corona, a lot of children were addicted to phones, and a lot of them had gone into depression. So what they have done, they have come up with methods so that they could take children out of that addiction, and they have also educated the parents on everything that's surrounding this addiction and depression.
साथ में जो हेल्पलाइन नंबर की मैं बात करी थी, उसके साथ ही साथ जो तरह तरह के जो एडोलसेंट एज के यंग बच्चे हैं, उनको हम लोग ने जो गवर्नमेंट के तरह तरह के पोर्टल से ग्रीवेंसेस के लिए उनके साथ उनको कनेक्ट किया, क्योंकि हम लोगों का काम मोस्ट मार्जिनलाइज्ड कम्युनिटी में है जहाँ पेरेंट्स एजुकेटेड नहीं हैं, पर यंग बच्चे जो है वो थोड़े पढ़े लिखे हैं, आपकी तरह उच्च शिक्षा वो नहीं प्राप्त कर सकते, उस परिवेश से नहीं है, फिर भी हम लोग ने उन लोगों को बहुत ही सरल तरीके से कैसे वो गवर्नमेंट में अपने आप को रजिस्टर्स कर सकते हैं, अपने पेरेंट्स के लिए वो सपोर्ट सिस्टम वो तैयार कर सकते हैं, जो एक गैप किया जा रहा है, या जो टेक्नोलॉजी के वजह से जो पेरेंट्स को भी एक परेशानी होती है कि वो नहीं जाते, वो नहीं प्राप्त कर सकते, उन चीज़ों में उनको मदद कर रहे हैं.
So the place where they work is very much marginalized, and the parents are not that technologically sound. So there are government mechanisms of redressals where government, you can lodge your grievances. So what they have done, children are a little bit educated, not much. So they have kind of educated those children, and also they have created a linkage between the grievances redressal mechanism and the children. So in this way, they could reach to a very large audience.
लास्ट में मैं चाइल्ड मैरिज के ऊपर ज़रूर प्रोटेक्शन के ऊपर बात हो रही है, तो यहाँ अपने एक्सपीरियंस को शेयर करना चाहूँगी, क्योंकि ग्रास रूट पे जो मोस्ट मार्जिनलाइज्ड कम्युनिटी है वहाँ पे अभी भी गर्ल्स के लिए एजुकेशन नहीं है. और मैं केवल गर्ल्स की बात नहीं करूँगी, क्योंकि जब मैं जिनके साथ काम कर रही हूँ वहाँ बॉयज़ के भी चाइल्ड मैरिज हो रहे हैं, क्योंकि जब चाइल्ड मैरिज का एक इमेज आता है तो हमें एक कम उम्र की लड़की दिखती है, कम उम्र का लड़का वाली स्टोरी ऊपर तक पहुंचती ही नहीं, कि जहां दोनों के ऊपर कम उम्र में शादी के बाद वो एक नया परिवार चलाने की जिम्मेदारी दे दी जाती है. लेकिन उसके जब तह में हम लोग गए तो वो दिखाई देता है कि उनके साथ कोई एंगेजमेंट नहीं है, और जो चूँकि शिक्षा की व्यवस्था नहीं है, एक प्राइमरी एजुकेशन के बाद आगे की पढ़ाई के लिए उनके पास वो माहौल और वो संसाधन नहीं है, उसकी वजह से जो एडोलसेंट एज में अफेक्शन और अट्रैक्शन हो रहा है, वो एक बड़ा मुद्दा दिखाई दे रहा है कि बच्चे शादी के लिए अपने आप से तैयार हो जा रहे हैं, वहाँ फोर्स मैरिज नहीं है, अपने आप से दोनों लोग तैयार हो जा रहे हैं. और अगर पेरेंट्स मना भी कर रहे हैं, कानून मना भी कर रहा है, सोसाइटी मना भी कर रहा है, क्योंकि ये चाइल्ड मैरिज है, तो बच्चे रन अवे कर जा रहे हैं और आगे की जर्नी पूरी उनकी ख़राब हो रही है. तो इस चीज़ में हम लोग उनको एडोलसेंट एज में जो लाइफ स्किल प्रोग्राम है ये चला करके उनको उनके आगे के लाइफ के लिए तैयार करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो हायर अथॉरिटी को और पॉलिसी को इसके ऊपर काम करने की बहुत ज़रूरत है चाइल्ड मैरिज के ऊपर.
They have also focused on child marriage. So whenever we talk of child marriage, we generally see a girl. The whole concept of child marriage is around a girl. We never see that even boys are victims of child marriage. So what happens generally when children are very young, they get attracted to each other during puberty and they run away from homes to get married. So what they have tried to do, they have tried to inculcate the values of life skills in adolescence so that they can understand that marriage is something that comes with a lot of responsibility and accountability. So they are even talking to higher authorities so that this can be shared in a very large scale so that child marriage can be prevented, and they have been doing some great work in this.
Thank you panel, thank you Pallavi also.
Thank you very much for that experience and those solutions that you have presented. Bahut bahut dhanyavad. And Pallavi, excellent translation. Thank you. So now I'm going to sort of roll a couple of questions that I had in mind because I'm looking at my watch and I also want to open it up to the audience. I'm wondering about solutions and also engaging with faith-based organizations and faith leaders. And how can we bring them on board to be part of the solution because faith leaders have a lot of sway on the communities, and almost every Indian, I think, is a believer. There are very few that might not, and they belong to some sort of faith community. How can we also bring faith leaders on board to understand the problems, the challenges, and also think about some solutions that they can and become partners? So I'm going to just leave it to the panelists as to who would like to go first. If you don't wish to answer, that's fine too, because we'll also get some questions from the audience.
Yeah. Most important thing.
Please go ahead.
Two things we did. One, the child labor, we organized the faith leaders. But most important thing, when we work with the madrasas, then we develop, we learn also from the Islam what is the importance and the rights of the children and other things. And we establish code of conducts. Same way with the Swami Amukteswaranandji, now the Shankaracharya, we discuss with him because there is many Brahmins, poor Brahmins boys came and educated about the Vedas, Upanishad, along with, but he introduced also science, maths, languages and all. But here I make a debate and discussions, and he agreed and he initiated. And the first batch, where is girls are also from all caste, also Kshatriyas communities, Sudras and Atishudras. So his first batch is going to complete very soon. So that is going to happen. So in this way, we engage these faith leaders, and also for the communal violence and the hatreds to promote the love. And and it is very, very important. They are very influential. So if they speak something, that creates many important things. So we engage with the Shankaracharyas and this type of people, and also the Muslim religious leaders. And we work with the Jamiyat also, not Jamaat, because I'm little run away from the fundamentalist group. So Jamiyat is very more patriots and links with the real Islam. So we work with them, and also they are giving their verdicts with the Devband and all. And this is very useful. So my humble request, it is important to engage the faith leaders. Maybe you are atheist, but you are 20%, 15%. It is also important, and they have a lot of stake on our society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor, would you like to?
Frankly speaking, coming from a new developed or actually developing country of Indonesia, I have to admit that the many faith leaders, especially in grassroots levels, do not have the right awareness about the well-being of children. We can witness, for example, that the religious activities such as gatherings of sermons are abundant, are flourishing more and more, but little of them addressing the issue of children. So we have to approach the religious leaders in local level, but at the same time engage them with educators from the universities, from the government offices, and also NGOs, NGOs, to raise their awareness that children are important, they are our future, they are now our future. For example, in Indonesia, and I believe it also happens everywhere, children are not being taught about critical thinking. They are not given their rights to speak up their minds. So adults know best, so you should listen to adults. But they live in a different world. They will live long after we are no longer here. So we should foresee what future they will step on. Yeah. So and we provide the background, the foundation for that. And I would like also to touch base on the inclusive education. In many areas where poverty is stricken and educational level is low, it's a very complex condition, many faith communities resort to the very conservative interpretation of religions. They become more exclusive. For example, as psychologists, sometimes I'm approached by parents who are worried about the religious teaching that their children get from their schools, from religious affiliated school. So the parents have good intentions in sending the children to religious affiliated schools to be more pious, etc. Yeah, to know the respective belief system and norms better, and those children get those right, but there's a hidden curriculum gained from teachers who are perhaps engaged with very conservative groups, yeah, outside the school. So although there's no textbook in the school teaching children not to be friends with other Muslim, with other non-Muslim, yeah, with other faith communities, the teachers convey them in the classroom. So, for example, parents worried that my children, after learning from schools, they are very careful about befriending with other children from different background. So I think this is also an issue on how we can promote inclusive education and tolerance education for respect of differing cultural and religious backgrounds. This adds to the complexities of the existing crisis of children. Yeah, but this is happening every day, even in middle level of socioeconomic status and middle and upper socioeconomic status. So this is worrisome. This is another side of the coins. Yeah, we have crisis of poverty, of how do you say it, children marriage, and also the mutilation of the clitoris among especially babies, girls, yeah. But also on the upper classes, we have those exclusive education. And just to remind myself, education is our investment. That's one avenue that we can change social situation. We can transform them to education. Education in narrow sense schools, but also education in broad sense, how we do the campaigns, how we deliver the religious sermons in wider populations. Yeah, that's all education actually. And don't forget about media. Media sometimes siding with a vested interest of some groups who fight for a status quo or for power, and they play the religious cards, yeah, to get their votes. So this is really important, and I beg that children also need to be given attention on this another side of the coins. Yeah, we want to nurture, to educate children that are peaceful. But not in the sense of shallow peace, but also in the sense of deep and positive peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there's much work to be done in all of these areas, and thank you for the work you're doing. Colonel, would you like to add something to this point?
Yeah, being a cyber evangelist, I always look at it from that perspective of the threat that a child is exposed to in terms of his exposure while on the internet. How many of you have heard of Blue Whale? How many of you played Blue Whale? I know the hands going down. It's a lie. There were 130 suicides in just 6 months of the proliferation of this game in India. And remember, it was not just, the Cosmo world. There were children from Uttar Pradesh, Srinagar, Kashmir, Bihar, Kerala, and that was the proliferation. And that was the time when this game was banned. Now, it is an online cyber game called Blue Whale. All of them know that we don't know, as elders, we don't know. The younger generation knows it. Okay. The problem here is the cross-border aspect of this gaming environment. Most of them are hosted in countries which are least bothered about law enforcement. The only law that is available for cross-geographical vulnerability, holding them accountable, is what is known as the MLAT. Many of the law students should learn this law called the MLAT. It's called MLAT, Mutual Law Assistance Treaty. It's not under the Ministry of Law, it is under the Ministry of External Affairs. Yet, to hold somebody culpable by virtue of that aspect is a very difficult aspect. In the IT Act, just one section covers for the kids, that is 67B, IT Information Technology Act, 67B covers, but that is on transmission of data with respect to child abuse and things like that. So what is essential probably as you young thinkers here, it's not possible to have utopia. How many of you read the novel Utopia? Okay, you should read it. It's by an author named Thomas More. It's an ideal citizenship or an ideal country, ideal thing. Okay. Of course, if you go to the Greek and Roman history, there is something called Pax Romana. Some of the humanities students would have heard about Pax Romana. It's actually a 200 period of ideal Greco-Roman culture that existed during BC 26 to about 180 AD. Yet, the Greco-Roman or the Indian culture has actually sidelined kids, children. In fact, brahmachari is between 0 and 25, so there is no more exclusion within that. The Solon lawmaker of the Greeks actually started responsible life cycle from the age of 21. So children per se have been actually left out of the enactments that is there across the world and even in India. So the vulnerability that they undergo is actually too dynamic. When I asked my kid the other day, May was his birthday, so I asked him, what gift do you accept? He says, I want data. Mere ko pack khareed ke do. I want a pack of internet data. So that is where we are in, and we need to change our thought processes towards our kids as elders of what they face, the vulnerabilities in the internet domain. So, per se, from that aspect, there is a lot to be done in India for the protection of child from that perspective. Yet, there is a lot of thought process going on, and many school of thoughts like your universities probably can come out with a framework for the government of India which can be used to enact laws. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to open it up to the floor, and the organizers have given us a little extra time so that we can have a richer discussion, because I think we've only touched not even the tip of the surface of the problem. So I see a hand here and one from Hunter. Arash? Please introduce yourself so everyone knows.
I'm Orash Fazli from.
The mic's not working.
Hello.
Yes.
Is this better? I'm Orash Fazli from Indore. My question, it was a wonderful, very thought-provoking series of presentations. I have a question for all the panelists. You know, there is this idea that it takes a village to raise a child. Now, the question I have is, you know, apart from religious communities, there are, there should be a civic responsibility that members of a geographic community should have for the children, you know, in their communities. And one of the things we saw during the pandemic was the absence of that. I mean, it was there informally, you know, when for 2 years schools were closed. I mean, we had everything else open up and the schools were the last. So the community did not really come in to fill that void which was very much there. So I wonder if there is any experience or there is thought being given to how, you know, community structures can be strengthened to support this.
Excellent question. Thank you. Arash, we saw that problem in the West as well. There were many communities. There's a lot of financial resources, perhaps, and almost every family has a computer. But there were some homes where there was strife, domestic strife, or the children were embarrassed because their homes weren't as fancy as some other people's homes. And we saw that they were not coming online and they were dropping out. So there's really a problem, and it's not only in India with street children and the vulnerable, but it's a problem everywhere. Hunter, and we'll take the two questions and then go to the...
Thank you. There was a lot of really good comments on the positives and the negatives of technology, you know, using it as something bad for, you know, perverts to get out there and find children to exploit, and then also giving resources for children that need it. Is there a standard that needs to be set by governments to protect children on the internet, or should that be left for the parents?
Thank you. That's a very important question because there's the freedom of expression and please go ahead.
Wonderful question, I must say. Yeah. So, I will use a very unconventional statement. You know, there's a saying that goes that spare the rod and spoil the child. So, most of the services of internet restrictions happen from home. I read an article on Bill Gates, who's given us the Microsoft and all the Surface, and many of us use it. Their kids have not touched the gadgets as yet. So if he can corrupt us, yet exclude his home from corruption, so there is some form of practice that we have to probably bring into it. And I think charity begins at home, and irrespective of what the government would do or what the organization would do or what the frameworks would do, I think cyber hygiene starts from home. There are many utilities, tools. Google itself offers many, Chrome offers many services where you can view your child's browsing pattern, his mobile logs can be provided to you, and there are many features that one can use. So I think as parents or the elders, we have to become first tech savvy to actually generate that form of cyber hygiene at our home. I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.
Thank you. So now we also have a couple of other panelists who want to speak to these questions. Go ahead, Isha.
Thank you, Bani. So answering for the first question, let me share some experiences from Sri Lanka. I think you might know that Sri Lanka had experiences 30 years of war. Then after, in 2019, we experienced the Easter Sunday attack. So most of the faith leaders, they came front and support for children, especially for the education. So they have started back to school program, after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, in 2019, after the Easter Sunday attack. Then after Corona hits, so Sri Lanka was experienced like more than 2.5 years lockdowns, like continuously lockdowns. So the community safety net starts, like the temples, churches, they are the central places, and children get together, like with all the social distance and other facilities were provided by the, the temples, churches, kovils and mosques. So those places have identified the, safe places for children, and they have established devices for children to come and learn. Like these places, they have like came forward because they want to provide some social safety nets for children to continue their education. So most of the government and other organizations, they basically provide those facilities to those, religious places. So children came, like they have certain times allocated for their education. So teachers started online teaching during this, according to the timetable. So those safety nets still going on, because sometimes, in rural areas, we don't have teachers for mathematics, science, and, for those subjects. So still, like really good schools, like schools in Colombo, so teachers are conducting those sessions from there, and children are getting involved from their places. So this is one of the examples that I could share from my experiences. And we are like establishing some places for children. We call it Children Empowerment Center, where we could learn, like we are not only providing them coaching classes, apart from that providing life skills, like providing all supports including drama, therapy classes, mindful sessions for their holistic well-being, like how you are going to learn with the others together, how we are growing up together. So these sessions are conducting with those empowering centers. So those are the things I could share, and I think one of the cases, some experiences that I can share among the group. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On this question, I'm wondering, Shrutiji, okay, Justice Dalvi, please.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, I would answer it in 2 words. One is, I know that there are various activities in church compounds, in YMCAs, etc., for all of these things. The second is that the counselors and the social workers, especially in an institute like the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TIS in Bombay and all, are conducting many of these programs. So that happens. To answer your question, sir, I'll give it by way of an example. Yes, what is said is that everything begins at home, but it must end with the government. And we have got now so many WhatsApp messages and SMSs to tell us not to give the KYC, not to give our PAN card number, etc. Those kind of messages must go out on WhatsApp to children about what not to see and how it is difficult. That is not so difficult for the government to do, which must be done. But one very good illustration that I saw in a video on a WhatsApp group is that there is one village where they decided that enough was enough and children are just too addicted to mobiles. So they worked out, the elders of the village worked out, and this happened about a couple of years ago only, in 22 or something like that. They decided that at 7 o'clock in our village, all the electronic equipments will be closed. So no mobiles, no computers, nothing. And till 8:30, which is a very good time for children to study. So everyone there would be a bell in the village, and everyone would switch off their devices. And there are some of the supervisors who would go door to door also to see, because it's a village and not a city like Bombay with 23 million people. So, and now people have begun to realize the fruits of it. They say that we have quality family time. They say that our children are studying at that time really properly, so that they eat together, they sleep together. And as they say, a family which eats together, lives together, a family which lives together, prays together, whatever it is, stays together. So that is what has happened, and each one of them have given their feedbacks that is good. Some kind of an interval. That could be given perhaps not only in a village, but it is for us to take up everything. That's how it goes.
Thank you very much, Justice Dalvi. I think that's a good idea for the adults as well, to take some time off once in a while. Any other questions or comments? There's the lady in the blue sari at the back, and then that gentleman there with the blue jacket.
Thank you, Vani. Thank you very much. A couple of questions to the experts here. Really happy to see such a rich presentation from the panel. Also happy to see two men there. Children belong to men as well, I suppose. Please do take equal responsibility of raising the children. So as a panelist said, charity begins at home. Yes, each one have the responsibility. With that, I would like to evoke to the young people here. Each one teach one is something that can come from the community too. We did a project with Cambridge University under which we analyzed the impact of digital technology on the school education of girl children. And this was a 3-state project with West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, and Delhi. And we did come across some very reliefful discoveries, that is in families already. There is a priority to whoever was performing better, irrespective of the gender. So if the girl was studying well, she would get more digital time as compared to the boy who couldn't care less on the computer or with the smart device. Having said that, one has to focus on that segment of the society that remains deprived in our country. And I would bring across so many examples from that segment of the society where digital education was actually disastrous. The girl child was not even entitled to log on to an email because seniors in her family were scared that she might get exposed to all the perverse literature or all the perverse pumping which is happening around. So there was a very, very strong paranoia about that as well. We needed to, and I'm so happy Justice Dalvi, I think, made this point. From the government, we keep getting these loads of information. Upload your Aadhaar and upload your passport and your PAN number. Why can't we have a constant message like this for the children? Only because, to the parents, for the children, only because children are not voters, only because the children do not make a constituency. So the government should be held responsible for that as well. I know it's a gigantic task. You talked about utopia, sir. We are doing a project again which is known as Etopia, that is electronic utopia. And under that project, we're actually analyzing the role or the impact that the electronic governance is making on public policy, presuming that public policy is just a reflection of what the society is demanding and is getting implemented by the state. I hope this conversation carries on. And even after this session, because the sessions are always having limited time, this was one very important thing that I thought needs to be shared to this august body. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To the gentleman with the blue jacket and then across the table.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a very nice deliberations and a discussion, and it has to be continuous dialogue to protect our children's. When we talk about the UN Conventions of the Child Rights, the protection of the children's right of the survival, a right of the development, right of the participation. When it comes to the participation development, what we are doing, when we talk about the person with intellectual disability, the special category of the children's, so this is also one of the most important vulnerable area, and these are those excluded kinds of the population. So government has many efforts they have taken up, but what kinds of the inclusiveness we can take up forward? And I would like to ask to every panelist that what kinds of the mechanism and ecosystem we need to develop to lead these special categorical children, and they can have certain kinds of the better access of the education, health, as well as the rehabilitation, reconnections of the society. So that is my the concern, and then I want to hear from you that what kinds of the call we have to take up to rehabilitate properly for the person with the disabled children.
Thank you very much. I think there was another question across. Faraz, were you? No. Marianne, you were pointing to? No. Okay, sorry. I thought you were pointing to someone who had a question. Thank you so much for this about the disabled children with disabilities. There is also now a convention called the Disabilities Convention, and India is a signatory to that. but many countries of the world are signatories to that. And the Child Rights Convention that you mentioned, every country in the world except one has ratified that. I won't name that country because of embarrassment to myself and some others in the room. However,
Let us name that country.
it is the United States, and it's not because the United States doesn't take care of its children. It's because the Child Rights Convention also talks about capital punishment, and in some states do have capital punishment for children, people who would be considered children. But that aside, we have these conventions, and actually it is the responsibility. This point came up yesterday as well in the women's empowerment discussion. There are these conventions, governments go to the UN and talk about all the advances that they have made, all the policies they have put in place. But it's really everybody at the grassroots that needs to hold the government accountable. You have to ask the questions of your local legislators, of your local authorities, as to why there are not facilities and assistance for people with disabilities, especially children with disabilities. So I think, yes, governments should be doing much more than they're doing, and that's world over. But I think some of that responsibility, it's the voters that can hold governments responsible. And really, the questions need to be asked at the grassroots level as to why more is not being done. I'm not absolving governments, but really we also have that responsibility. I'm sure other panelists can also.
Yeah, look, you look, always there is a policies, but there is a gap for the implementations. And we also create some violation reporting for the inclusive, also make accountable to NGOs who created the exclusive educations for the different able children. For me, not disabled children, different able children. And also we use in our, there is a child theater. And we give the opportunity and dignity to those different able children. I will tell you, they perform extraordinarily and very inclusive way. We need little patience, more opportunity, and giving real dignity. And when especially in the school, we make a complaints to National Human Rights Commission, Child Rights Commissions, and nowadays there is a lot of discussions with the Education Department, and they initiated a lot of process. So that is not like 5-10 years before. So they have initiated the special school for that. Little bit we have the problem with the so-called mental challenge children. So we are observing, because the teacher unions and other talking very differently on that. So we are going to develop the real pedagogies and other things, and to make it training. So we are working on that. So a lot of development, satisfactory, but not fully satisfied at all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm wondering if there's any panelist who has some last words.
One last word.
I know. No. On this? Okay. Please.
Yes, sir. You asked us, and there is a Disabilities Act, and they have now celebrated 10 years of the Disabilities Act in 2023 because it's of 2013. There have been many judgments under this, and many are covered. And there is now learning for the blind and the other children, the visually impaired children, not by Braille, but by an instrument which has been invented by two young Indians, and it is sort of taking hold. And I have seen how well children are relating to it. It is digital Braille, they call it. So that has come about. That is again a private initiative.
Please go ahead.
Okay, on the last word, I'd just like to share a small incident which took place yesterday. How many of you know what is pinky finger? No. Okay. So yesterday I walked into our school, our kids' school, and I saw a few girls standing together, and measuring something on their finger. And I with lot of inquisitiveness, I couldn't enter that congregation, but yet from afar off, I went onto the staircase and I found. And I was surprised, there's something called pinky finger, and the girl child will know much better than us. And they were measuring the curvature of the left hand, chota finger, small finger. When you go back home, just see, and you will realize that there is a bend. And that is a deformity because of the way we hold our mobile. And our kids have got the maximum. So when I came home, I measured both our kids. And I found there was a true, real curvature. And then I did a Google search on it, and I found out there's something called pinky finger or smartphone pinky, isn't it? How many of you knew this? Hands up, the young crowd will know it. Okay, right. Go do a Google, you will come to know. So that is the threat by virtue of a physical device. Forget the cyber part of it. Yeah, thank you.
So I'd like to thank all the panelists for their wonderful experience that they've shared with us. We spent a lot of time on technology, but there are so many other reasons for vulnerabilities our children face every day. As a closing gesture, Justice Dalvi wants to engage in a little exercise that's going to involve all of us. And after that, we'll end this session. Please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. And I want about 10 children from here, the students, to come quickly here because we've got only 5 minutes given to us. So you quickly come and we will show them something.
I see 5 women from here. Any guys brave enough? Come on. Some young men.
This young girl is a small child. And this girl is her maid. This girl is her mom. She's going to work. Okay? At present,
Can you hear her?
this much. Now, there is one naughty boy who is going to touch this girl. Okay? We are going to tell him, you may touch this girl. But we are telling the maid and the mom to prevent him from touching the girl. Okay? Today it is only touch. Okay? So she's here. And you come here. You must protect. He is going to touch you. You must not allow him to touch. You go touch her. Protect her. Yes. No, you should not. You must protect her. Not tell him. You also, you are the mother. Protect your child. Go. What do you want to do? Touch her. Touch her. Try to touch her. They will not allow you to touch her. If you can, you win. If you can't, you lose. Come on, go.
Let her sleep. We're not asking you to do anything.
Okay, I want to touch you. That's it. Okay. You go. Try to touch her again. That's it. That's it. Okay, now you come. You are the school counselor. You are the neighbor. And I wanted some more people. You are her friend. You are also her friend. You all go to school together. Okay? Now you have to protect her. This man wants to touch her. Okay? Go. All of you protect her. Go, you touch her. Please protect her. You can't protect by shaking hands. You have to protect her. Okay. Yes. Come on, touch her. Try to touch her. So,
Get
in a
the
short
point.
time, what I wanted to tell you was that if there is only one person, like a maid, there is only one person, like a mother, they protect, they try to protect, but they cannot protect quite often. And this kind of a pervert, as she said, would go to her. But if there are more people, if there is a father also, I forgot the father because the father is generally forgotten because he's always in office. So when he comes home, he's there to protect his child. If there are school teachers and counselors who protect at other times, those children don't become vulnerable. Children who don't have all of this social supports become vulnerable. those vulnerable children come to our courts. I've seen them, and I've seen the kind of impact on their minds that they have of confusion, frustration, trauma, even kind of no faith in anyone, their lower self-esteem, etc., etc. Okay? So it is that in our societies, and I'm not talking about the digital age, I'm talking about the manual age, we have to ourselves work to protect our children in our neighborhoods, in our families, everywhere like that. When we are there, they are protected. Because these kind of people then don't want to touch those children. When my son used to go to school, I used to go with him to put him in the school bus. Another child was coming with the servant. My maid used to do other work, but not my son's work. Maybe that maid does the son's work and not other work. These are little things that make a lot of difference. Thank you.
So you've sparked another question. Quickly. Please pass the mic.
Good afternoon to you. Am I audible? Yeah. I'm Colonel R.D. Singh. I'm a veteran, and I happen to be a batchmate of Colonel Koshi. I narrate a live incident of last night. When you performed that exercise, I just remembered that I said I must share that, and no contribution, but just sharing that incident. I go for my walk in the evening after I come back from office, 8:30 in the evening. I was walking. It was not a very isolated street or something. There were few people moving around in that area. A wide road, about 50, 60 feet, and I was on one side of the road, and there was a girl, probably one of you, your age, talking on mobile and walking. And Innova car comes that side, full speed, around 60 or something. It's a stretch of about 200 meters. It goes that side and then comes U-turn, and it parked right next to the girl. And I was across the street. So now I don't know what to do because I do not know the intention of the drivers. There were two guys sitting inside. I do not know whether they know the girl or not. But somehow I could make out that the girl is uncomfortable. That's all. Nothing more than that. What I did was nothing. You very rightly talked about the neighbors and friends apart from the parents. But I'll go one step beyond. Unknown to her, not at all known to her, I just went into the middle of the road, was in the line of sight of those guys, and just kept standing like this with my hands on my waist, doing nothing, no expression. That as if you do something, I'll pounce on you. So I don't know whether it was because of that or that girl had some nasty looks to the boys or whatever. He politely moved, took a U-turn. His speed came down from 60 to 30 and politely moved out till the time I saw him going to the corner and enter the society. That's all. I never spoke to the girl. I never thought anything and walked off from there. So I think if we do certain actions on our own, each one teach one, somebody mentioned here. So somebody does something like this, I think we are contributing in a very small manner to getting the confidence and the faith in the girl child that we are protecting even without knowing her. That's all I wanted to share. Just triggered Justice Dalvi from the exercise that you triggered. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I'd like a round of applause for my wonderful panelists and for the audience, and a commitment from everyone to do something about the vulnerable amongst us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And of course, the exercise, one of the perfect ends that we could have ever asked for. Visionaries coming from various streams and backgrounds of life and guiding us on that one topic of protection of children and the vulnerable. Students would agree with me. I think a lot that we're going to take back from here on. May I now invite our session coordinator, Professor Dr. Preeti Joshi, Associate Dean, Liberal Arts, to kindly come forward and extend the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Piyush. A very good morning to all the panelists and all the members present over here. We all know that it is said, child is a father of man. How true it is. We all know that. Children have tremendous capability, potential and energy to change this world in a better place. What do they need? They need an environment which will allow them to grow. As a seed, it needs certain climate, certain environment, and few of the ingredients to grow into a big tree in the same way. If small children get love, affection, and protection, and the freedom to make them grow is required, and that can be given by the society. But in today's world, we can see that there are so many challenges. Many of them have been discussed here by the esteemed panel members and the people who are present over here. And we have discussed how we can overcome that and how we can give them safe and better place to live in. So if people, like-minded people, come together and take this mission ahead, I'm very sure we'll be able to develop such kind of world for our children. So on behalf of MIT World Peace University and Interfaith Summit G20, I thank all the panelists who are present over here and all the members who contributed to this session. I do thank our Executive President Rahul Karad sir, Founder President Vishwanath Karad sir, Executive Director Aditi Karad ma'am for providing this opportunity for all of us to discuss in G20 Interfaith Forum such a wonderful topic. And I again one more time thank all the panelists and all the members who contributed to this session. So thank you once again. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to announce the lineup for this afternoon's breakout sessions as part of the G20 Interfaith Summit Day 2. These sessions promise to be insightful and engaging, and we encourage all of you to actively participate. Starting at 2 p.m., we have 3 thought-provoking themes taking place at different venues. Of course, we have 1 photo lined up for all the panelists. I request all of you to kindly come forward for a commemorative photograph. Talking of the afternoon sessions, number 1, protection of religious and cultural heritage, venue Mahatma Gandhi Hall. Number 2, human trafficking, venue Gautam Buddha Hall. Number 3, Global Youth Peace Dialogue, venue World Peace Dome. We invite you all to join us in these impactful sessions as we continue to make Day 2 of the G20 Interfaith Summit an exciting and meaningful experience. Can I request everyone to kindly stand up for a commemorative photograph, and of course our delegates and panelists to kindly step forward in front of the screen. I request all the delegates and students to kindly stand up at your places. Team Shutterbugs, I request you to kindly come forward for the photograph.